Hi, everybody. My part of this training today is to talk a little bit more about making sure you know how to drive your team volume. Now, we've talked about a lot of things over the past couple of weeks of what is personal volume, what is team volume, and then how do you start to make income off of growing your team and working together so that your team is successful. So today, specifically, we're going to talk about 3 different things that are going to help you and your team grow those team volume points so you start to cycle more. As we get into my next slide, you're going to see a couple things in review. First of all, what is team volume? Let's remember, anything that your downline purchases. So you get those volume points if somebody in your downline has their basic Shakeology order, right? So that will just be, goes right into your team volume bank. Now, anything your coaches' customers purchase. So if they start selling Shakeology, or if they have, we're hoping that all coaches are getting 5 Success Club points. Those go into their personal volume, but it goes into your team volume account. Basically, anything your coaches buy or sell will go into that bank account. Let's take a quick look as we remember what that actually looks like. So in our image on the left, as a quick reminder, if your left leg has 540 team volume, so they've gotten all these points from selling a couple challenge packs, and then your weak leg has 200 team volume, so maybe 2 coaches in each of them has their 90 PV from being on Shakeology. You would do your cycle bonuses, and then that week you would get 2 cycle bonuses, and depending on what rank you're at, that is how much more money you could bring in additional to your commission. I threw this last little thing in the bottom for you to take a look at. I thought this was really helpful when you guys are trying to think down and how to break down how it is that you can make a certain amount for a week. So if you wanted to make $1,000 a week, your goal would be at a diamond level, you'd want to have 5 to 10 Success Club points a month, and your personal volume anywhere between 300 to 500 a week. And roughly each week, your weak leg would need 5,500 and your strong leg would need 11,000. So that would help them understand how that breaks down. So that's where you can start thinking about, okay, which coaches am I going to bring on and how do I start making that extra cycle? Now, today we're going to talk about 3 major things. What are ways that we can drive volume up as a team? The key is not doing this by yourself. It is really important that in everything that we do it as a team. We brainstorm ideas, we share ideas, we give each other coaches because that trickle down is so helpful. So we're going to talk about 7-day Shakeology challenges, mini boot camps, and then last and most importantly, being a product of the product with your coaches. So first, let's talk about a 7-day Shakeology challenge. 7-day Shakeology challenge is so that customers who are hesitant about trying the full month get a chance to sample, see what flavors they like, get to play around with recipes. You provide the meal plans, good recipes, and blending tips. I cannot encourage you enough that when you're doing one of these challenges to make sure they play around with blending. Some people don't like the texture. Some people just need to find the recipe that works for them. If they give up on day 1 because they didn't like the first shake, they're not going to see the added benefits. So it is your job as a coach to make sure that throughout the buildup of this and during the implementation of your Shakeology challenge, you are emphasizing the nutritional value of what is in Shakeology. So make sure that you are using either the slides that talk about the ingredients, what are the benefits of these certain ingredients, and why it's really important for them to stick through 7 days of trying Shakeology and not just doing 1 day at a time. You're going to want to introduce your new clients to the culture of your challenge groups. To do that, you're going to provide either daily challenges to engage your customers or different opportunities that they're going to call in response in your group. So that can be your Flex It Friday, have them show it, share their own recipes, take a picture of them doing a selfie, chug, chug, chug. Anything that's going to help them check in daily to help understand the culture of what a challenge group looks like. Now, how does having this drive team volume? Well, this is where the magic happens. So coaches buy boxes of Shakeology to help create sample packs. Each box will give your coach 90 PV. So that makes them active, that makes them eligible to be a Ruby and Emerald, any of their ranks. As the higher you get, you do have to have a personal volume a little bit higher. But don't be scared that you have to buy extra boxes, because if you implement this correctly, not only will you make that money back, sometimes you make a little profit off of it. So let's walk through an example. You say that you have 12 customers that are interested in doing this Shakeology challenge. This is not just something, by the way, that you just throw out there. You want to plan this accordingly. You want to look at your team calendar, your personal calendar, and say, okay, I think I'm going to do a sample the week after Thanksgiving. So you're going to want to start to crumb ideas about Shakeology over the next 2 weeks. You want to do an event almost 2.5 weeks out. Start inviting them, engaging them, and that way you know how to foster up some excitement for this program. Now, let's say 12 of those customers say they want to try your packets. You're going to need 7 samples per customer. So you're basically going to have, oh, that's a typo. That's supposed to say 84 packets, not 8 packets, but 84 packets available. Now, 84 packets most likely you don't have at your house. So you're going to need to buy roughly 4 boxes of Shakeology to make sure you meet all of those needs. Now, 4 boxes of Shakeology would be 90 PV per box. Ultimately, you would be getting 360 personal volume into your own personal account. Now, imagine if you had 3 or 4 coaches that are on your team in your downline doing the same thing. 360 PV times 2 or 3 different coaches underneath, you can see how this is going to start creating team volume to help you cycle in your own bonuses. If 3 of your downline coaches have 3 customers and each need to buy an extra box of packets, then each of these coaches would receive an additional 90 PV, which would give you 270 team volume. I'm going to point this out again. Let's say you had the 12 customers. What if instead of buying it under your account, you bought it under your husband's account? Automatically, 360 PV of his would go into your team volume, and you'd get bonuses from that. So I want you to start thinking strategically about how we, together as a team, can help create this team volume. Where do we go from there? Things that I want you to remember. You don't want to just give away your samples too often. Like last night for Halloween, I did give them out as a trick-or-treat to families. So I gave out about 20 samples. So that cost me a little bit of investment, but that's okay. Now, but if you give them out all the time, you know, I've got free samples, I've got free samples, that's going to decrease the value of the shakes. It's also going to have it so that people just think that they can get these for free. You want to make sure they understand that there's value in that sample. When you do a 7-day jumpstart, you're going to charge anywhere between $35 and $40 for the week-long trial. Up to you how you want to charge. Typically, it breaks down to $4.50 to $5 a sample, and that will also cover the cost of shipping. I always recommend to them that say, I need to buy it for you. I'm charging you $5 to cover the cost that everything provides. I don't make any money off of this, but I do point out to them that they could get it for cheaper for something as a customer. And then if they want me as a coach, I could also get it for $325. You may not want to point out the fact that you're buying it for $325, but that being said, you can just emphasize that this is not normally $5, but that is because this is you shipping it out to them. As I said before, if you haven't already signed up your spouse, then I would strongly recommend that you get a spouse. Just don't marry somebody off the street, but that make sure that if you are married, that you are putting them under your weak leg. And so that way you are putting a monthly order in for them to be able to get a box of, a barista combo or the Neapolitan, one of the mixed boxes, so that you have a couple of extras to choose from. I often do the barista box, and then on my husband's account, I alternate the greenberry chocolate and the vegan, so I have most of the flavors. Every once in a while, I'll have to buy a box of just regular strawberry if I'm really emphasizing that this is what we're doing in the future. Now, as I said before, make sure your husband is buying those extra boxes underneath you, or your wife is underneath you, so that you're able to get the bonus of team volume on top of being able to just pay off those boxes that you buy together. So what are some other options to drive our team volume? Boot camps with free club memberships. This is a calendar that Jillian put together. So we, in the end of September, created an event to hype up the launch of Core to Force. So in the month of October, we have put this calendar together. Jillian did an awesome job creating this, and it kind of created interest. We brought free people into the group. Hey, try this, sign on for a 30-day free account. And it was a chance for them to try a couple of different programs, but also to get hyped up about a new product launch. And we do this often where you can just go in to your Beachbody On Demand, kind of look to see what's available on either the challenge du jour or what workouts are, and you can create a theme around it. And you'll put together, and anywhere from a 7-day boot camp challenge, I say 21 days is probably the longest you'll want to do. And that's specifically, we do a 3-week one if we're leading up to either a product launch or a really big call to action. Typically, you're only going to want to do maybe 7 days or 14 days, but sometimes 21 comes in handy. Now, originally, this is an investment. You're not going to get any personal volume or team volume from having them sign up for free membership. But they do get 15 PV every time they stay on demand for 3 months. So at the end of the first month, you'll get 15 PV because they will be billed for 3 months of Beachbody On Demand. Might not seem like a lot, but again, keep this investment in mind and keep the team volume concept. If you come together with your team, and let's say 20 of us come together and create this, we have a whole bunch of people in our downline, not necessarily your personally sponsored coaches, but a bunch of people that you've noticed that are on the bottom of your leg as well because you've received trickle down. And everybody then at the end of that month gets a 15 PV. Well, that's going to add up really quickly into some pretty good team volume. You also want to look at it as an investment because if you work with those customers, they will absolutely get results. And when you have somebody who signs up and gets results, they love it, they want to stick with it, they're going to become a coach. They're going to sign up for a coach. Even as just a discount member, you are going to start seeing your team volume growing. You can also partner this entire boot camp with a Shakeology challenge. So you can partner these together, bump up both your team volumes for both the short term and both the long term. And what you are doing is investing in customers, getting them through the door. And sooner or later, this is going to turn into challenge packs. And if 2 or 3 of your coaches in your downline also receive benefits of having 2 to 3 customers, you're going to see our team volume grow. And this is where we start to make money. This is where we start to see those cycle bonuses and where you really start to see your return on investment. Now, last thing that you guys need to do, and I really want to emphasize this, is make sure that your coaches are being a product of the product. It starts with you. You need to start and finish a program. I cannot begin to emphasize enough how important it is for your customers to see you go the entire program. What I strongly recommend is that you create a photo album that's specifically documenting that particular journey. So for example, when we started the Country Heat this past summer, we would pop up a video called a photo album called Country Heat, or something fun and cute like Dancing My Way to Fitness. And anytime I posted a picture on my just general board or just my general Facebook, I would make sure that that was linked into that particular photo album so that if someone clicked onto it, they could keep jumping forward and start to see my progression from day 1 until the end of the time. Now, I will say the best way to get results is to be vulnerable. Start with those beginning shots. You don't have to stand out there with your bra and underwear, but if you wear a thin shirt that you can see your muscle definition, the rolls and everything on day 1, it sets the pace for everyone. Oh, I see where she's at right now. I wonder how this challenge is going to work. Be consistent. Show up every single day. Document, upload that. And at the end of your 21 days, 30, 60, or 90-day program, you are going to see people left and right going, okay, I'm in. Because they are now trusting you. And if they trust you and they see that this product works through you, you are then going to get customers. Why is this important for your coaches? If your coaches are not successfully finishing a program, they're not going to see results. And if they're not successfully, seeing results, they're not going to show the consistency factor in being able to have people trust them. If you are a coach, and this is going to be a gut check to a couple of you, who started a program and then kind of gave up and then went on Beachbody On Demand and tried 2 or 3 things, and then there was a sneak peek on something, and so you decided to go to that, and then you really got distracted, and so then you took 2 weeks off. No one cares if you're working out. That's the same thing of going, oh, went to the treadmill today, click. You need to be a product of the product. Start a program, finish the program, even if you hate it. I have a call out to a couple people that were not fans of the country heat. It wasn't their jam, but guess what? They showed up every single day and still did it. And by showing people that they did it and that they still lost weight, even though deep down inside they weren't a fan of the program, they were able to create connections to bring in new customers. They also know the product now and are able to give recommendations and reviews, and it makes them a better coach. So what product are you doing right now? Are you starting a Core de Force? Whenever there's a launch, I strongly recommend, even if you don't want to do it. I was one of the people who didn't really want to do country heat, but I did it. And unfortunately, I had to stop halfway through because of Core de Force, but I was determined to finish it, and I have been able to get 4 or 5 people to sign up for challenge packs because they saw my progress from country heat, and they saw me dancing like a storm and having some laughs about the whole program. So I want you in the comments below to tell me, what program are you doing and are you going to finish? When do you finish that program, and what's your next one? You really want to think strategically about mapping out your months. Know your products, get to know them, make sure your coaches are doing that, because if your coaches do them, they will start to see personal volume climb up, which ultimately means for you, you will see team volume grow. When we together as a team have our team volume high, we are going to be able to get to that elite status again. And remember, elite status for this team is huge. We get previews, we get samples, we get extra support from uplines, we get extra support from customer service. So that is why it is so important that we as a team bump up our team volume, because if we can become that elite status, it's going to set us up for success for 2017. So thank you for joining me today. Guys, remember to start thinking through 7-day Shakeology jump starts. When can you throw a boot camp in? A free group maybe thinking out a couple weeks from now, and make sure you're a product of the product and your coaches are too. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks for joining me today. And if you have any questions, we'll hit us up below. Thanks.